Hi, I'm Luke, bike shop manager here with Competitive Cyclist. Today we're going to talk about washing your bike. I just got done with a ride here and I'm going to show you guys how easy it is to wash your bike, even trailside, with a couple extra things that we'll go over. One rule of thumb is a clean bike is a happy bike. So try to maintain your bike as often as you can, but if it gets a little dirty, it's not that big of a deal. The one thing you don't want to do is take a really dirty bike to your mechanic because they probably won't appreciate it. All right, let's get started. First thing you need is water. If you're at home, a garden hose works really well. If you have one of those sprayer attachments, that works great. The one thing you want to avoid is any sort of pressurized system or a pressure washer because that can drive grease out of your bearings, drive grit into your bearings, and it just makes it so you're going to have to change things a lot sooner than you would otherwise. The next thing you're going to need is a bucket and some brushes. They make bike-specific brushes. They're not necessarily required, but they do make a big difference, especially when you're cleaning into your linkage and your cassette and your chain rings. And then thirdly, you're going to need some sort of detergent. Bike-specific detergents are great because most of them are biodegradable, but if you don't have them in a pinch, you can use something like a standard dishwasher soap or dish soap works just fine. Right here, what I have is a weed sprayer. These can be found at any home improvement store. They're about 20 or 30 bucks. I've spray painted this one black because I actually use it as like a camping shower. So you spray it black, you leave it in the sun all day and it gets nice and hot and you can wash yourself off, but it also works really, really well to clean your bike off if you want to trailside. Okay, so now that we've gone over what you need, let's get started. First thing you're gonna wanna do, this is if you're trailside, is get your bucket and get your sprayer and take all of the brushes and stuff out of your bucket. Take some water from your sprayer. Just pour some of that into your bucket. This is because we don't want to mix the detergent water with the water that we're gonna use to rinse. Because obviously, once we're done washing, we want to make sure we have clean water when we're rinsing off. Now what we want to start doing is just wet the bike a little bit, all over. You don't need to go too crazy with this. We're just trying to loosen up any dust or super loose dirt. Make sure, if you're doing this without a work stand, which is really, really nice to have, that you come around and you get the other side of the bike as well. Work stand isn't necessary, but does make your life a lot easier. Once you have that done, you want to take your bike cleaner. And again, this is biodegradable, so this isn't going to damage the soil or the environment or anything like that. And then you just take this. It'd be really great if I had it turned on. There we go. And just spray the bike down. This specific cleaner is safe to use on brake rotors, but you want to check and take a look at the cleaner that you're using because some of them are not. So you want to make sure that if you're using a cleaner that is not designed for brake rotors, that you're not as liberal with the application, because what's going to happen is you're going to contaminate your brake pads, then you're going to be in a world of hurt. Once we have that done, we're going to take our sponge, get it nice and soaked with water, give it a couple sprays of the detergent, and then just start cleaning. I always like to start top down when you're cleaning a bike, just because the water is going to drip down and kind of start to work on the parts that are lower down. And we're just going to use the sponge, and we're using the sponge to just get the easy to reach surfaces all over the bike. Okay, once we have a basic scrub down done, what I like to do is spend a little bit of time on the drivetrain. You can get drivetrain specific cleaners that are also biodegradable. This particular cleaner works great on the drivetrain anyway. So give it a good spray, spin the cranks around a little bit, make sure you're fully getting that cassette and that chain. Get the crank. And then this is where our specific brushes come in. This is a stiff bristle brush. You just want to get your brush against your cassette Backpedaling it is a really easy way to cover most of the cassette and the chain without having to do a lot of extra scrubbing. So you can already see a lot of that dirt that was there before is just starting to fall away. Get a little bit more water on your brush, come over to your chain ring, do the same thing. You'll notice on my chain ring that you can see that looks like the teeth are worn out. Good time to check that, see if it needs to be replaced. If you do have a full suspension mountain bike, what you can do is you can grab one of these specific brushes that's designed to get in tricky spots. These also happen to be spots where a lot of dirt and grit tends to gather. And over time, if you're not careful and you're not cleaning this off at a relatively regular pace, it could potentially damage your paint. All right, so now that we've got it all scrubbed down and pretty cleaned off, we're gonna rinse that soap off. So again, if you're trail side, you grab your sprayer. Probably gonna need to give it a few more pumps at this point, pressurize it again. And then, just like when we're soaping, you wanna start top down, because if there's any soap on here, you want it to rinse down as the bike gets cleaned. Get your handlebars, which is an often overlooked part of bike washing. Let's focus on those areas that we mentioned before that are tight in the linkage. Rinse all that extra dirt off of those. We'll go back, rinse out your brake calipers. Water doesn't harm brake calipers. You can get them nice and wet. It doesn't really make a difference. And then you want to get surfaces underneath, especially under the down tube. That's one of the main surfaces that you're going to get a lot of dirt and grit collection. Come around the front, give the rims that I scrubbed off a nice rinse. And as you're doing this, the one thing that you want to take note of is that any part that you remove grease from, like the chain, like the cassette, like your rear derailleur, when you apply that degreasing formula, you need to re-lubricate. Otherwise, it's gonna rust. We have a really good video on how to maintain your chain and how to lubricate your chain, so check that out. And honestly, with rinsing, you can't really overdo it. So if you think there might be a little bit of soap residue there, go ahead and rinse it off. It's just a matter of running out of water if you're doing it trail side. And that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned a little something about bike maintenance. If you have any questions, reach out to a gearhead today.